I think that having empathy is a curse. I think having developed empathy is almost like a death warrant. It's a pathway towards endless suffering. Let me tell you why, for me specifically. I've always had a deep fucking empathy for everybody around me. I don't know why, it's just the way that I am. I think it has roots in childhood. I think that at some point in my life, I internalized empathy as a virtue. I'm gonna blame To Kill a Mockingbird because I read that when I was quite young. And my grandmother was a very empathetic person too. She was important to me. So I have this highly developed sense of empathy. Now, the problem with that is it's not very useful. It's not very useful to be able to understand how people think and feel. Because most people, generally, if you're highly empathetic and they're a part of your life, they will only ever really let you know about the bad stuff. So you become, as an empathetic person, you become a vessel in society for people's shit. And they just pour and pour and pour and pour and pour and pour. And your capacity to hold depends on you. It grows, like it's like a muscle. You get better at it, or you find ways of draining, coping, so that you don't overflow. But that doesn't always happen. That didn't happen for me. I just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually I overflowed. And now I'm bitter. Now there's spill everywhere. I'm terribly bitter about it. I'm still empathetic, I can't turn that off. But I find myself becoming resentful after the fact if I don't see certain things from the person, if it's taken for granted. This, okay, it's almost like a service, this service that I'm providing inside the parameters of a relationship, this listening. If I don't see an understanding there, then I get very bitter about that. Not that I would act on it, but I wouldn't offer it again. I wouldn't listen again, which causes more problems. So I think having empathy is a curse. I think that people recognize it. I get a lot of messages through my wood stuff and so on, and it becomes very apparent immediately, these people that message me, that it's not so much about my work, even though that's the talking point. It's more that these people kind of seek me out. Like I have some sort of understanding face, and I always get their stories. Always. Every time. I could write a book. Every single person I have ever met, I get all their stories very fucking quickly. Which is fine. It's flattering that people trust me that way. And I'm not complaining about that necessarily. But some people take it a little too far. And when you're in a bad headspace like I am, it's very difficult to be positive about that. Because what it feels like, and my recent experiences would lean heavily into this, it kind of just feels like people use you for your utility. Your utility to be a free fucking sponge for their misery. And then when you need something, they can't reciprocate, either because they don't want to and they don't understand what you've done for them. They just take it for granted, like you're supposed to do this. Or they just simply don't understand, or they don't feel empathy. They just use you as an outlet, which ties into my issues with justice these days, because if I don't believe in God or some sort of tally, a record, historical record of these things that I do, then I'm the only one who knows them. Because the person or the various people that have spent their time filling up my vessel, they won't acknowledge it. It's not important to them. It's gone. They probably don't even remember. But I remember. I remember everything. And I can't turn that off. So if there's no tally or history is associated with that, no divine anything, no fucking magic in the world, no fucking fate, then what am I doing with my life? Why am I doing this? I'm fucking wasting my time. I'm literally wasting my time feeling shitty for other people for no reason. You know, and it makes me angry. It makes me angry because I know that if everybody like me changes and becomes this psychopathic, zero empathy, only take individual, and everybody in the world is like that, it's a very fucking dark place. It means that there's no goodness anymore. It means that everything is war all the time, hostile, you know, aggression, which is not what community is supposed to be about. It's not what relationships are supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be an arms race. It's not supposed to be a hoarding of ammunition. But that kind of seems like the way things are going, especially when people like me fall like this. And there's a whole other part to it. The person that took something from me, you know, in society's eyes, she would have been considered a saint, you know, because she's very in tune with all these, I would call them hollow moral issues. These new social issues that have come around, you know, the ones that make people feel good about themselves, about identity, champion those, but ultimately it doesn't actually change anything because it's not about the things that matter. And the thing that matters is wealth and balance. You know, if I was at the top of the hierarchy, I'd probably be laughing my way to the fucking bank. You know, what a great way to control public emotion is to give them a fucking bone to fight over. But that's a whole other discussion, isn't it? So, in short, feeling for other people, understanding how they feel, having empathy, developing empathy, growing, none of it is worth it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Be an animal like everybody else. Be hateful. Be cold. Only take. Be a vampire. Never give. Because you only have one life, and after this, you're done. You're done. There's no afterlife, there's no God, there's no tally, there's no tapestry, there's no record, there's no archive, there's no magic, there's no fate. Nothing in the cosmos is going to save you. You have maybe 60 good years. And then the other half is being sick, and the other half is being a baby. You know. Don't do it. That's my advice. Fuck everyone.